I am disappointed to report that since the last briefing to the Security Council on the 19th of August, the Israeli-Palestinian peace process has stalled. The recent cycle of terror attacks and extrajudicial killings has broken the Palestinian ceasefire and brought the process to a standstill.
Today, the UN's chief envoy to the Middle East reported to the Security Council on the ugly standoff between Israel and the PLO. The comment comes days after Israel said it would remove Yasser Arafat, calling him an obstacle on the roadmap to peace.
Meanwhile, Israel is going ahead with construction of a 370-mile security fence cutting off Palestinians in the West Bank, but has decided to leave gaps in the fence along the boundaries of disputed Israeli settlements.
Should Arafat go? Should the fence stay? We're joined by Meyer Shlomo, the Israeli Consul General to New England, and by Farouk El-Baz, former advisor to Egyptian President Hosni Mubarak. Gentlemen, thanks for being here. Mr. Consul General, let me start with you. We've read a couple of reports over the last several hours. One says that your government has backed off on the threat to kill Yasser Arafat, and there is still some confusion as to whether the government wants to send him into exile. Can you clarify for us?
Well, my government has never decided to kill Yasser Arafat. We've decided, and our decision was actually a reflection of the reality. Yasser Arafat was, is, and still the main obstacle to peace between us and the Palestinians. He is the one who made Abu Mazen resign. He is the one who actually brought the roadmap to where it is. Thus, he is obviously part of the problem and not part of the solution.
Two things, by the way.
And we have to do something about it.
Just to clarify, the Vice Prime Minister did in fact say that killing was an option for the Israeli government, even though they, as Chet said, they did backtrack today. But
please go ahead.
Let me get to the question of you saying he's the obstacle. Let's assume that everything you say is true. How does it advance the cause of peace to exile Yasser Arafat? He still is the leader. He becomes more martyr-like. His profile has been raised. How does that help Israel's cause?
Well, you know, I mean, Yasser Arafat, one of the main sources of his power is that he's there and he's running things behind the scenes. And once he will be removed out from the scene in exile, then probably his power will diminish. And all that is being done not because we hate or like Mr. Arafat. All that is being done because Mr. Arafat has proved himself again and again to be an obstacle. And we are looking forward to have some kind of partner on the Palestinian side.
Farouk, the question of assassination or exile aside, certainly there's no disagreement over the fact, or maybe there is in your mind, that Arafat is an obstacle to peace, that every time they get close, you know, it's 2 steps forward and 10 steps back.
There is no question that Arafat is not the person that we would like to see leading the Palestinian people. But the whole thrust that Israel is taking is not the right one. If Arafat is an obstacle to peace, there are a lot of people that think that Prime Minister Sharon is an obstacle to peace because of his militancy, because of the settlements, but it is not. Nobody would say that I'm going to want to remove Sharon. In this kind of situation, you need people to go beyond the little things and deal with the issues. I'm going to give you an example with President Sadat. I was a science advisor to President Sadat during the Camp David Accords. I was with him once, and one of his cabinet members said, Mr. President, Menachem Begin is a tough man. He has been labeled as a terrorist by no less than David Ben-Gurion himself, the father of Israel. Let us not wait to deal with somebody that we can talk to from the other side. And Sadat said, nonsense. It is better to deal with the toughest of the tough, because the deal that we make with Menachem Begin, no one in Israel will question it. And what we will do with him will be a lasting peace. And it's true. There has not been an incident on the Egyptian-Israeli border for 30 years. So the issue is, even you might want to even deal with the devil if it is for a good cause. So it is making an issue of Arafat would make him stronger. Talking about Arafat as the man that was such, and we have to remove him, this and that, gives him support. Most Palestinian people know that Arafat is really not the guy, and most of the people on top really want him out, but they want to find some way of doing it. I think that when it was announced by Israel that they're going to cut off his communications and cut off his visits and so on, and leave him alone, and not mention his name again at all, he would fade into oblivion, because the other people are the ones that want to.
But how can you say that? Because Abu Mazen, who was the prime minister, who was acceptable to Israel and clearly acceptable to the United States, felt that he could get nothing done because of Arafat's influence. There is now a new prime minister chosen by Arafat who basically, when he's putting his cabinet together, goes to Arafat's Fatah party and says, you pick the members of the cabinet. It's clear that Arafat's in charge of everything, so how is there ever progress?
Because he is being made the big issue. But I'm saying that if he was cut off from communications and meetings with these people and so on, as it was for a while, then it'd be amenable to these kinds of things, because the people that work with him know that there is no way for the thing to proceed as well as they want to, with Arafat being in control. But to keep him on the side, Arafat, the people like Arafat think it's about himself. I met the guy twice, and when he talks about the issue of Palestine, you feel that he believes that the whole thing is about him, not about the history of a whole people.
Now, so what is the alternative? I mean, Arafat is, like it or not, the elected representative of the Palestinian people.
Well, let me first just say that I welcome the remarks of Dr. El-Baz, because it's a perfect example. I mean, we are looking for more people like President Sadat on the Palestinian side. That's what we and the Palestinians are lacking desperately. And Israel has shown that when we find somebody like President Sadat, we do rise to the occasion, and we do compromise even when it hurts. So I really welcome this example, and I think that's the right path to go.
But stop there just for a second. Israel doesn't get to choose for the Palestinian people who leads them any more than a Palestinian sitting here could say, I think the major obstacle to peace is Sharon, and as a result, until Israel removes Sharon, we won't deal with them either.
This is not about Israel choosing. Israel does not choose who will be the Palestinian elected official, but President Arafat has proven himself to be part of the terror that is ongoing against Israel, to be part of the reality that induces this terror, and we have to do something about it. We cannot just say, we cannot just stay complacent and just let him do his thing. And I remind you that we've tried with Mr. Arafat everything. We are now exactly 10 years after the Oslo Accord started, and exactly 10 years after we've tried to talk to him, and after we explored any possible avenue. We, and I think most of the world, has come to the conclusion, rightly so, that Mr. Arafat is not a viable player in this game.
And yet, Mr. Consul General, the United States, the United Kingdom, France, Russia, Germany have all urged Israel not to send him into exile, and certainly not to assassinate him.
Well, for that I can say only that. You would remember that some time ago when we suggested that the Hamas is a terrorist organization, almost all the countries that you just mentioned decided that they are not terrorist organization and refrained. As we stand now, all of these countries have changed their position and come to declare the Hamas, both military and politically wing, as a terrorist organization. So I would say that we believe that we are doing the right thing, and I think justice will prevail, and they will come around to see, because in the end of the day, it's not only for our sake. I think it's the sake for the whole Middle East, and between all of us, I don't think that many of the leaders, at least the Arab leaders, by the way, you would notice the absolute silence in the Arab world about this move on part of Israel. The only one who called Mr. Arafat after this decision was made was Amr Moussa. That's it. Nobody else, and Sheikh Yassin, of course.
Yeah, the silence from the Arab world is deafening, and it is a bad thing, a bad scene that the rest of the Arab countries are giving the silent treatment to the whole thing, which is really pretty bad. And that's why we're saying that the leadership in Israel and in Palestine, what we need now is some visionary leadership that has the guts and the imagination to work with the devil, whoever it might be. There are all kinds of things against Mr. Sharon and his position and his militancy and the things that he had supported, the settlements for the ones that make sense and even the ones that do not make sense and so on. But no matter what it is, he's the leader of Israel and he wants to resolve the question. So you sit down and talk to him. Talk with him and resolve it if you have the vision and the imagination to help the whole situation. And it is for the benefit of the state of Israel not to be living under a siege for the rest of its life.
Neither of you are voicing a concrete plan. Unlike in prior conversations we've had with both of you, what seems to be between the lines is that nothing is going to work right now. Is that essentially one has to have a long view, particularly I'm hearing this from you, one has to basically sit back, accept that there is no roadmap to peace in the immediate future, and hope that either Arafat is removed, he dies, But you don't have a plan in the short term,
No,
do you?
no.
What is it?
We still think that the roadmap is a viable map. And you know, in the Middle East, one thing we have learned is that there is no quick fix. And I know that the media usually looks for either a breakthrough or a breakdown, but we are a bit more patient than that. And although things don't seem to be very brightening now, we do have some patience, and we'll wait it out, this crisis. And I can assure you that Israel will be relentless in pursuing peace. There's no question about it.
Meyer, what's going to happen to the issue over this fence? You've got 90 miles of fence, and now there's some talk about perhaps building another fence in perhaps a slightly different way. But some suggest it could lead to more tensions, an increase in tensions.
Well, I think that everybody who is interested in peace should actually support this fence. I, by the way, talked to a few congressmen and senators this last week, and I found almost all of them very, very understanding and characterizing it. Some of them have been to Israel recently to see for their own eyes, characterizing it as only a rational response. I mean, the fence, the only function of the fence is to stop terrorists from coming into Israel. The fence doesn't bite, it doesn't attack, it doesn't do any harm. The only thing it does is prevent anybody who feels like in the morning in Jenin to walk 20 minutes and blow himself in a coffee shop within Israel, not to do that.
Or a Palestinian who has to get to work or visit a family member who would ordinarily take 10 minutes, 3 or 4 hours to get to a checkpoint to do that.
That's not the case, because most of the fence is on the Green Line to begin with.
The Green Line being the 1967 border that was...
Second of all, there are some kind of infringements, but we do our best in order to overcome it.
Help peace or hinder it, the fence?
Totally hinder it in the long run. The fence is something that imaginary that will build them. It's a Maginot Line, it's the Bar-Lev Line. All of these things never really work. Israel needs to think, to know, to feel that it is part of the people in the Middle East. There will be peace forever, and people are going to go back and move around and go to the same schools and even intermarry, and all of that is happening without a fence. The fence can be a psychological barrier against integration of Israel as a country in that region. So you want to have real peace, you remove the settlements in the West Bank, give the Palestinians their land, give them a flag and let them be and work together and let them work here, and some Israeli Jews can work in the land of Palestine and move over without any fencing. That is the lasting peace that we're thinking about. That's the kind of things that we are looking forward to establish lasting peace.
If only that could be.
We've got the fence. I mean, all they have to do is to stop terrorism. That's the only thing that has to be done.
Well, we've got to stop right here. Thanks to Meyer Shlomo and Farouk El-Baz.
More Newsnight when we come back. Next, a drunk driver kills a Massachusetts couple and is sentenced to 3 years in prison. Does the punishment fit the crime? Grieving family members speak out.